Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of Foundation 101 podcast, where today we talk again about single family office, but slightly with a different twist. We will talk about governance and the importance of possibly considering retaining non-executive directors. And you see from the slightly funky logo down here that we have today an active member of GetNed, which is Christian Knie. Christian, good morning.
Good morning, Jan.
Thanks a lot for joining us from cold Europe, I understand. So you wake up very early.
Traveling Europe. It's an early one. You're right.
Very
Get
good.
Me out of bed.
So Christian is a senior executive. He has held multiple positions over years in large businesses, family businesses, in legacy planning enterprises. And I thought it was very relevant to have him join us to discuss single family office and non-executive directors and how they can work together and how non-executive director can add value to the table. So without further delay, Christian, let's remind our audience maybe what a single family office is in your own word.
First of all, Jan, thanks for the intro. Let's go straight into the topic. Time is of essence. Let me describe the SFO basically in two chapters. On the one hand, its definition. On the other hand, actually, what is his purpose? And I think that will explain a lot. On the one hand, what is a SFO? And I think you had already some series where a lot of definitions have been already shared with the audience. Might be a little bit redundant, never mind. It's a privately held company. Put it also in another context, it's a privately owned and run wealth management firm developed for a single family office. So what is the beauty for the family? The family actually can keep control of this entity, but it will still retain privacy and discretion. And I think it's a very important factor for families to keep privacy and discretion, particularly when they are being exposed to governance. Might not be in the forefront of every family office's business as of today, but this is something where we need to develop them into. When we speak about we, I'm talking actually about the nets that we are coming to speak about a little bit later.
Yeah.
Let me also put another definition in. I think that will also probably explain it a little bit more precise. It's a commercial enterprise that is set up as a distinct private legal entity. And the point is here actually serving only the members of one family. And of course, the legal entities that this family office is, that this single family office is in control of.
So it has to have some sort of commercial purpose with only the family in mind, and it
absolutely
can take various forms.
Absolutely. And this is also, I think, where we then actually can shed a bit more light on the purpose of the family office, which is first and foremost for investment in wealth management. I think this is what it basically centers around. But not to forget also about basically providing a foundation for a transfer to the next generation. These are areas where succession planning, estate planning come into play. And last but not least, consolidating the management of services, tax issues, legal services, but any other administrative services as well that make sense to be consolidated in one single entity, cost-wise, benefit-wise, expertise-wise. You don't have so much expertise that you basically actually can dispose of that in all places, so you consolidate it. And
so you mentioned
this is basically the point of a family office.
Yeah, so I'll pause you here because if you remove single family office, you actually just describe an enterprise, which it is. And
in fact, it is, yeah.
Yeah, that is a nice segue to the non-executive director, because every company has a directorship and leadership. What is, in a general context, a non-executive director?
A non-executive director, and I think the word explains it already quite well, almost self-explanatory, is basically the difference to the executive director. It's a director that provides independent oversight. And I think that's the key word here, independence. Another key word is experience, expertise. There is also some sort of seniority, meaning experience required. That's a person who provides oversight, guidance in the company, sees the company and its business issues in a broader context. That's very important, not in the day-to-day context. And is also part of committees that are concerned with critical issues. Put it in another way, risk committee, audit committee, remuneration committee. These are the committees which are frequently also actually attended by the NEDs. And I think they can actually play a very vital role in those.
So you actually jumped the gun on that, because what I wanted to talk is not only about the NED per se, but about his role. And you mentioned the risk aspect, the strategy aspect as well. What else can be the role of a non-executive director in an organization of any kind?
I think we have different roles, because there is no one size fits it all. Normally, the NED is the same thing as a single family office. It should be bespoke to the needs of the company, bespoke to the needs of the family office. And that's, I think, very important. But for critical chapters, strategy, performance, risk, governance, I think those are the areas that usually actually are typical for what the NED is very critical and very crucial for. And starting with the strategy, for example, challenging, but also contributing to development of a strategy. Challenging doesn't mean declining a strategy, but helping with a bit of remoteness, taking a step back and assessing the feasibility of a strategy. Does it add value to the company? Or on the other hand, does the company actually have the resources to deliver on the strategy? These are things where a day-to-day manager might be too deeply involved and knee-deep into that topics. And for that reason, you need someone who stays a little bit behind and has the experience, very important, the expertise, but also the oversight. Risk, you mentioned it, Jan. It's about accuracy of financial information. It's about robustness of financial controls. It's about risk management systems. I have seen a number of companies with risk management systems. They didn't exercise it. It's also a matter actually of how you feel risk management, of how valuable the information is that you put into it. And this is where the NED comes into play in order to assess, is that a risk management that delivers value, or is it just a matter that is reflected on the paper? Financial controls. Company needs to go concern. That's the major thing about every company. And this is where controls come into play. Does the company have a control system? Is it effective? This is always the point where a NED has to put questions that make the whole board understand, particularly also the chairman understand, is the company well run and is it well in place? And can it actually survive and retain its position in the market?
And I think that's very, very relevant in the single family office space, where these entities, these establishments are there to consolidate and increase value over time, but also to be very defensive. So if you do not have these checks and balances in place, you will fail in developing value over time and being able to cater to the needs of single or multi-family offices over time. So you mentioned some of the key benefits already. I listed some of these here, which are those that you often see. Any inputs that you would have on the key benefits here in the context of working with a single family office?
Look, I think that the point is knowledge, know-how, networks, absolutely important. NEDs actually can link each other with. It's very important actually to talk to each other on a different level, not on the day-to-day level, but on the oversight, on the guidance level. Very crucial. I have been in operational roles and I have been in supervisory roles, and I know exactly what as a day-to-day role I was doing wrong. So when I step a level up into the board, I can ask myself, hey, what is the shit that I have done? Sorry for the language, but this is really the issue here. And how can I make it better if I'm a bit more remote and I give it oversight and guidance? And that's, I think, very critical.
And that is the third point here, which is experience in developing companies. You make mistake, and if you've been there, done that, you can very easily come in without being day-to-day and provide strategic input and avoid mistakes, anticipate, plan ahead, etc.
And that's the issue. Risk management is about actually all these features that you just mentioned. It's about basically actually detecting, preventing, mitigating. So this is something, as you rightly are saying, anticipation is about everything. And if you have gone through various developments of company, you normally understand what is going to happen next.
Yeah.
If you haven't done that before, no point, and also no issue actually to blame something or someone for that. You wouldn't be able knowing it. And that is the main difference between a net and an executive.
You mentioned just before the importance of that single family office and multi-family office to a lesser extent play in keeping the privacy. In that, the natural thing would be, let's keep it in the family in this, let's not take third-party advisors that are too much involved. So I want your take on this, because this is really the important thing is, how do you strike the right balance between taking someone from outside to add value to a single family office while safekeeping the objective that you actually wanted? So what is this ideal balance that a family can strike by having a third party, preferably experienced, being hands-on but not day-to-day in an organization?
I think that's a good point, Jan. I personally think, and I'm personally convinced, it's not a big bang, and it's not a drastic change in how a family actually looks at how to run its business.
Yes.
I think it's a matter actually also where you need to familiarize yourself with a net and with somebody from outside and get to know that person. And for me, actually, it's more of a process rather than a drastic change, as I said before. So I think you can also actually put that into 3 layers. These 3 layers, it's a kind of a phased approach where you first actually need to start building awareness with the family and then basically emphasizing and stressing the benefits and advocating the benefits of a single family office and the role of the net. How can the net contribute to that? It's not only done with the SFO, it's also done actually with the net knowing how to run it and how to provide governance, oversight, and develop a company. And here, what can help is actually the trust building phase where you, together with the family, devise a business case that basically can show you the benefits, but also the pros and the cons of a family office, because you cannot hide the cons. There is always a flip side to everything. But you have to basically actually showcase the vision, the mission, the strategy, the projection of what are the financial benefits of it, and what is basically actually the governance, the corporate structure you have in mind. On the other hand, where would you set up and how would you set up the family office in terms of tax jurisdiction, legal jurisdiction? There are a number of questions, and with those questions, I think you start enhancing the dialogue with the family and you automatically build trust because they see that you as a net bring value to them. And I think that's the major phase here.
If I can jump on one point that you just said, which is spot on to me, which often families come from a non-financial background. They build tremendous wealth through brick and mortar business, sometimes manufacturing, etc. And all of a sudden they have a cash event. They need to manage money. So they need to become savvy in the financial space. They are all smart, they're all business centric, but they do not necessarily know that world, which is where having someone, like you said, that had that experience in this sort of environment, managing budget, but that are not relating to a manufacturer or a business like this, which is really financial, and to plan way ahead, like generation, and with the ability of steering the boat.
Absolutely.
And say, hey, I did this mistake like 5 times in my career, so let's not make it for this family.
Let's not make it a 6th time, exactly. Simple as that, but this is basically to the core of and to the bottom of the problem. It's not about actually the wiseness. It's not about the smartness. This is all what the families are having. But when you come, I'm also a little bit pointing to myself from a big corporate. You know how to structure, how to develop a business. And as you rightly were saying, you can already anticipate what is going to happen 5 years ahead. If you don't do this today, or you basically don't do it today. And this can actually change a lot in how a business is developing and flourishing, prospering, and keeping stable. And I guess a net is extremely vital, but it will also take time to get the family and the nets together in order to phase out something that makes sense and that helps the family to flourish.
And I think to rebound on that, in our experience, what we have seen is families initially being a bit reluctant to the idea because they said, look, it's family office, it needs to be family. And what we have been trying to do is say, look, set up, and you mentioned it before, set up these subcommittees that are in charge of something, easy investment, yeah, and have a professional sit there with the family, provide input, not necessarily binding input. They do not necessarily need to have a voting right, but they can be
exactly.
They can be there, challenge, throw ideas, and over time you gain confidence because if the person is making argument that actually makes sense and feels that his ideas are valued, I actually believe it's a much better way for a family than to hire a full-time CFO, COO, which in this neck of the woods often doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then I think you put a very important point here into play. It's also something that also needs actually a phased approach. You can put up, for example, an interim advisory board. Put a net on the interim advisory board. The interim advisory board is not a full functioning board of directors. As you rightly are saying, instead of a committee, it's an advisory board that is advising, and the family is open to adopt the advice or not. But it would give the family an understanding of what the value, of what the impact of an advisory board is, and can easily transition that to the next higher level, which is then the board of directors and a fully functioning governance system. And I always in the corporate world did the experience that a fully functioning governance system is irreplaceable. I'm not saying that because it's something now that we want to promote. I'm saying that because I'm fully convinced of it. It has so much power, so much insight, that from that insight you can draw and extremely well devise strategies, take decisions of the company, allocate resources, and do the right things.
And it's proven anywhere in the business world, but I think also in the financial world and single family office world. If you have a better delegation matrix, better governance, clear decision making, clear pattern, ability to challenge in respect, this ensures that the business or the family business will grow, will stand longer, will be more profitable, and this is what is necessary from family to sustain itself over generation. Christian, this was eye-opening. Thank you very much for your input. For those of you that want to hear more from Christian, you can contact him through the details that will be here at the end of this pod. Christian's profile is also on the Get-Ned website, which helps people connect with people like Christian, senior advisors that take non-executive position. And as you can see, non-executive directors are not only for commercial enterprises, they add a lot of value to single family offices in general, whether at the top up or in the various committees. It's a small step process, but it's important to take that first step at some stage. Christian Knie, thank you very much, and I wish you a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. It was a good start in the day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.